Some of the first games I ever played when I was a kid was 2D platformers. Games like Donkey Kong Country and Super Mario Bros. 3 will forever hold a special place in my heart as they helped open my eyes to the gaming world, but since that point, a lot of things have changed in gaming. Games became more complex and large 3D worlds have taken over the entire industry, but one thing still remains true. 2D platformers to this day are a ton of fun and even have some of the best games in the industry when they're done right. So over the last month, I have done both a top 15 Metroidvania list as well as a top 15 3D platformer list for the Nintendo Switch, but now it's time to do one more. But this time we're going to talk about the top 15 best 2D platforming games on the Nintendo Switch. And I do want to preface that I'm not going to include Metroidvania games on this list. I know a lot of people think that they're 2D platformers, but we're not going to do those. So go check out that video as well if you want to see my top 15 best Metroidvanias. Now, of course, just like all of my other videos, this is just my personal opinion, so if I don't mention some of your favorites, let me know in the comments below so others can discover those games as well. Also, I will only be choosing one game per franchise for list purposes, but with that said, let's get right into the video. At number 15, I have Gris, which is an artistic masterpiece with a deep and emotional story to pair along with that. It's all done with unique watercolors that you don't really see in video games at all. In fact, even the character in this game is really unique with a bit of a realistic head on a more abstract body, and that is something about Gris. In many ways, it's very abstract with a story that is told without ever using words. This could vary from person to person and how the mood is conveyed because a lot of symbolism is used in this game. In just pure beauty, Gris is among the most memorable, but it also has fun platforming to go along with that and cleverly thought out puzzles. The developers here did a really good job at changing the gameplay up just enough to constantly keep it engaging, and this certainly has become a standout hit in gaming for the last couple years. The first thing anybody and everybody notices about Yoshi's Crafted World is that it is absolutely adorable. I mean, this may be the cutest game I've ever seen in motion. It's one thing to just see it on a screen, but when you're actually playing it, you realize just how good this game looks. Yoshi has always been a cute character, but it's like Nintendo just turned up the dial to 11. Like any good Nintendo game though, Yoshi's Crafted World has exceptional level design with plenty of variety to go along with that and charm to boot. It's an easy game to jump into as well for all ages and skill levels. It may not be a very challenging game, but I do think it's a very well crafted world, no puns intended, but it is enough to carry this game from beginning to end. The world is ending and you must build your own friend to experience the end of the world together. This is the end is nigh in a nutshell, and I know that sounds like such an odd premise, and well, that's because it is. But with that said, it's also an amazing game coming from the same guy who made both the Super Meat Boy and Binding of Isaac, Edmund McMillen. And much like Ed McMillen's other work, The End is Nigh is yet again another fantastic game with a weird, dark sense of humor and extremely challenging platforming. And I do want to emphasize the challenging part here. The controls are among the best I've ever played in any 2D platformer, but they absolutely need to be with how challenging this game is. So if you like challenging games like I do, then The End is Nigh is a must-have. I had a hard time choosing which game by Playdead to put on this list, Limbo or Inside, so I ended up choosing both, which is a testament to how good Playdead is with these style of games. After the instant classic Limbo released in 2010, Playdead went back to the lab and spent the next 6 years developing their next game, and even though the wait was really long, the payoff was more than worth it. Inside and Limbo has a lot of similarities. They're mysterious, with a dark, ominous world, and each has a certain weight to their depth. Each death has their own unique animation that adds to the terrors of the world around you. They also have clever puzzles and something that pushes you to know more about the world around you. In many ways, I think both of these games are more than just a 2D platformer, but they're a work of art, from a gameplay standpoint and how they're also conveyed. If you like puzzle platformers, then you definitely need to go check out both Inside and Limbo. Neither would be a bad choice. Without a doubt, Mega Man was going to appear on this list somewhere, though deciding on which Mega Man was the difficult part. Because of that, I ended up choosing the newest installment, Mega Man 11, which continues the classic franchise without skipping a beat. It does boast a more modern art style, it has full voice acting and some new time-based mechanics that may make the game a little bit easier, though you can always choose not to use these mechanics if you decide not to. I will say this though, when I think of some of the best 2D action platformers, Mega Man immediately comes to my mind. Mega Man has tight platforming, it has fun combat and well-made boss battles, and really it doesn't just excel at one thing, but it just does them all so well. There is a reason that so many games have been inspired by Mega Man, and honestly, there's reason for this game to be still made today. This is a staple of Capcom games and one of the best 2D platformers that you can play of not only just now, but of all time. There is a lot of games that try to emulate games from the 90s, but Shovel Knight not only emulates those games, but it flat out feels like it came from the 90s. If you put this side by side with the 90s game, I probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Shovel Knight is another action platformer that will not only have you jumping platform to platform, but you also get the chance to whack your enemies with your trusty shovel. Though, it doesn't end there because you will also have access to 2 other unique games that will completely change how the game is played. At the end of the day, Shovel Knight is a 90s game at heart, but just like many 90s games, I think this game will be remembered for decades to come. Splasher is easily the most overlooked game on this entire list, and I really have no idea why. Splasher is a pure platformer with an interesting mechanic. It kinda reminds me of a combination of Rayman with Portal. I mean, it's not like Portal in the sense that you go from portal to portal, but it takes an interesting mechanic and centers the entire game around that idea. So it has fast-paced type platforming, and this is really good for speedrunners, but you also have paint that you can splash across the ground and walls. Though the catch here is, each color of paint has their own unique property. One color may allow you to stick to any wall, while another may cause you to bounce in the air higher than usual. It's this mechanic that really separates it from other platformers. While I only have Splasher at the number 9 spot, I could easily put it much higher on this list. And if you haven't heard of this game yet, do yourself a favor and go check it out. Sonic is one of the most interesting franchises in gaming. The blue dude with the toad is easily one of the most recognizable gaming mascots, but after the Sega Dreamcast, Sonic has really had a lot of mixed reception. At times, Sonic games tend to be really good, while others not so much. But after years of going back and forth, Sega decided to do an old school Sonic game like the originals from the 90s, and this was the best decision that they have made in the Sonic franchise in years. Not only is Sonic Mania a good game, but it's one of the best 2D platformers on the market right now. Just like the originals, it's all about going fast and you have multiple routes to reach the end of the level. It also gives you several characters to play with, including Sonic, Knuckles, Tails, and even some new additions on top of that. Each character has their own playstyle, and the level design is top of its class. Sonic Mania is arguably the best Sonic game since Sonic Adventure 2, and hopefully, Sega continues to make more games like Sonic Mania going forward. Super Mario Bros. 3 was one of the first games I ever played, and back then I was in awe as to how good it was. And really, even to this day, it's still an excellent game. Somehow though, Nintendo always seems to improve, and New Super Mario Bros. Is a testament to that. This is a game showing how much Nintendo has perfected the 2D platforming genre. It has everything you would want in a platformer. It has tight controls, charming characters, a fun world to explore, and the staple of what seems to be in all Nintendo games, brilliant level design. While New Super Mario Bros. Does not claim my number 1 spot on this list, it however probably does have the best level design out of all these games, with a variety of worlds to go through. The fact that it also has a fun and chaotic multiplayer addition to it is also a bonus. It's really just a matter of if you're going to work together with your friends or against them. From the very first moment I played Cuphead, I knew this was a special game. The old classic cartoon art style is one of the most unique art designs I've seen in gaming in recent memory, and to watch it in motion is breathtaking. And really, I don't know why more developers haven't used this art style. Beyond that though, the gameplay is phenomenal. It's a run and gun type platformer that is well designed in several facets. The levels are well made, that has both creative boss designs, and it's also a very challenging game. I've always loved difficult games that tries to challenge me, and that's exactly what Cuphead does. It's not always a platformer though, and offers a variety of levels that may also have you flying around, but I think at the end of the day, Cuphead is among the best indie games available right now for good reason. Cuphead even made it into Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, so hey, that's pretty awesome. The original ukulele set out to be a spiritual successor to the great Banjo-Kazooie, but with the Impossible Lair, Playtonic took an entirely new direction. They were not going to do a 3D ukulele 2 like Banjo-Kazooie, but instead they looked to do a 2D platformer that was more similar to another Rareware franchise, Donkey Kong Country, and even though the original ukulele left some people disappointed, Impossible Lair knocked this one out of the park. It has the same charming world with silly puns, but the platforming in this game is honestly amazing. I'm actually having a hard time not putting this game higher on my list because I do think this is one of the most balanced games on this entire list. It has a wide variety of levels ranging from snow levels to underwater levels, but Impossible Lair also has an extra layer that other platformers don't have. It also has a unique overworld that acts similar to isometric Zelda games with puzzle elements. If anything, I think Impossible Lair is the best 2D platformer from last year. We have talked about several difficult platformers on this list, but Super Meat Boy is possibly the most difficult platformer. It also is a pure platformer, unlike something like Cuphead. That is the heart and soul of Super Meat Boy with tight controls as you jump wall to wall over and under traps. And yes, those traps are going to lead to your death time and time again. I mean, you will likely die hundreds of times while playing Super Meat Boy, but it's never frustrating. There's always this quick respawn system. In fact, it's almost addicting as you complete each level, and the thing I always liked about Super Meat Boy is that when you finally beat a level, it shows a quick replay of all of your deaths and that one lone Meat Boy reaching the goal line. Super Meat Boy may be one of the oldest games on this list, but it's also easily one of the best. Rayman is one of the most underappreciated mascots of all time. A lot of love seems to go to other platformers such as Mario and Sonic, but since the 90s, Rayman has always been one of the best in this genre, and once again, with Rayman Legends, it has proven my case. A lot of games on this list are smaller indie games, but Rayman Legends is one of the most complete platformers you can play. It has a wacky sense of humor, a ton of characters to play as, and brilliant level design. Actually, one of the most memorable levels in all games for me comes from Rayman Legends, in my opinion, which is the recreation of the song Black Betty by Ram Jam. As you run through this level, the scenery, enemies, and collectibles becomes a part of an orchestra. It's cute, it's wacky, it's odd, and enjoyable all at the same time, which is exactly how I would explain Rayman Legends. Some of my favorite games ever made is the original Donkey Kong Country trilogy made by Rare. So when Retro Studios decided to bring back the Donkey Kong Country franchise, I was thrilled, and luckily Tropical Freeze can be considered a worthy successor. The enemies aren't as good as the original crocodiles, or at least in my opinion, but the level design, on the other hand, is among the very best. You have that classic buddy duo combination with Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong, which each has their own unique ability. When you have Diddy on Donkey Kong's back, you will have access to a jetpack as an example. But it doesn't stop there either, as you also have access to other characters like Dixie Kong and Cranky Kong. This can change the formula up with each unique character, and also I will note that the game's music is orchestrated by the genius David Wise. The music is actually one of my favorite soundtracks in all gaming, but at the end of the day, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is among the very best 2D platformer games, of not only just today, but of all time. If you've been following my channel for a while now, it should come as no surprise that I have Celeste as the best 2D platformer. The thing is, Celeste isn't just one of the best 2D platformers ever made, but it's one of the best games ever made, and I know that's very high praise, but I think it completely deserves it. The gameplay itself is fantastic with simple mechanics. You're able to jump, dash in any direction, and then climb, but Celeste constantly throws new obstacles your way to change up the formula. It also is very challenging, but on top of that, it has a great story. That is something that platformers are just not known for, but with Celeste you get both a deep and engaging story, and then you also have incredible gameplay. If for whatever reason you have yet to play Celeste, this is an essential game for any gamer. Just go do it. Anyways though, that's it for this video, but if I forgot to mention any game that you think deserves to be on this list, let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you liked the video, don't forget to hit that bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Peace out.